Our second work of art by Diego Velázquez is The Surrender of Breda. Now, this is one painting in a series of 10 that were paid for by the King of Spain, Philip IV, and they were to decorate one of the hallways in his palace in Madrid. This was painted when Velázquez was the official court painter to the king, and this series of 10 were meant to highlight specific Spanish victories around the world. Now, the Surrender of Breda, the one that we're focusing on for this class, is a specific event in which the Spanish were fighting for control in their territories in the north, specifically the area we call the Netherlands. And what we see is the defeat of the town of Breda. And we have the mayor of Breda giving the keys to the city to the Spanish as the rest of, or the Spanish general, as the rest of the Spanish army waits after the battle. This painting is along the lines of a larger war that was happening at this time. King Philip IV, the guy who paid for this painting, he was in the middle of a series of battles for control in his territories in Northern Europe. Now, we look back on this time and call it the 30 Years' War because it lasted, 30 years. But that's historians naming this. They didn't call it that. They didn't know in the middle of this war that this would only last 30 years. So think of this as a series of battles. And this series of battles had erupted because of conflicts between the Protestants and their calls for reform, and the Spanish and their firm allegiance with the Catholic faith. And then this kind of blew up and shifted to more nationalistic concerns. People in the north did not want to have Spanish overlords. And so this series of wars fought, there's Breda right there, is what the King of Spain is having Velázquez highlight. The wars ended with the Treaty of Westphalia. If that sounds familiar, it's because I introduced you to that concept with the Italian Baroque and the establishment of the Counter-Reformation last year. But with the Treaty of Westphalia, King Philip IV identified them as their own independent state, the Dutch Republic, or the United Provinces of the Netherlands, and it also established the Protestant faith as a legitimate faith and not heresy. When we look at the painting, though, this is before all of that had happened. And what we see, I told you these paintings are huge, about 12 by 12 feet. What we see is the victory of the Spanish over the city of Breda during this war. The war has not finished, so this is a celebration of a victory of a battle, not the war. But why show it? It's propaganda. Remember, I introduced you to that term last class or last week. Propaganda, the systematic spread of ideas and information. So when we are standing in front of this painting in Philip's house, his palace in Madrid, what are we supposed to be understanding? Why did the Spanish defeat the people at Breda? Well, if we look at the details, and if we were together in class, I would ask you this. Look at the two figures in the center, the mayor of Breda and the Spanish general here. What kind of body language are we being presented with? And then I'd look out over the crowd and I would ask you to tell me what you see. And then you would say, well, he's like giving him the keys. He's very gracious. And how is the Spanish general behaving? Well, the Spanish general is very humbly taking the keys. He's gotten off of his horse. Yes, you're right. He has literally gotten off his high horse to accept the keys, eye to eye, man to man. And he's not just holding his weapon or in some kind of hostile or dominant position. Instead, and we talk about that phrase, get off your high horse. I say high horse because high horse, have you ever been on a horse? It's extremely tall. Horses are really high up. And so you look down on people. And so he doesn't want to look down. Instead of looking down at the defeated, he comes off of his high horse to greet him eye to eye. But even in that gesture, look at the mayor of Breda is beneath him, right? He's placating, or he's supplicating to the general, right? And the general's, he's being so gracious with he's not being a sore winner, bad winner. He's like, oh, yes, yes. Hard battle. Good job. Give me those keys. If we look at, let's see here. If we look elsewhere. Oof, sorry about that. That was a text coming through on my end. If we look at the rest of this scene, what else do we see? Why should it be no surprise that the Spanish won over the people of Breda? Right? There's our smoking Breda. Here are our Dutchmen, the revolutionaries who are fighting against Spain. Here are our Spanish forces. Now, some students might notice, look at the pikes, look at the halberds. There's so many more pikes. There are so many more Spanish. So visually, it's telling us, of course the Spanish won. There's so many of them. Of course. Also, look at the lines of those pikes. Look at how straight they are. Even after they have won, they still remain in formation, disciplined, controlled. Look at the halberds. They're kind of lopsided. They're tired. They're not organized. So again, propaganda. We look at this and we go, of course the Spanish won. Look at how regimented, how disciplined they are. Of course they won over the Dutch. So the visuals here are playing into Philip IV and propaganda during the 30 Years' War. Now remember though, that this battle has been won, but the war continues. Velázquez identifies or acknowledges that in this man here. See him? He's a Dutch. What's he doing? He's looking out at us, the people who are in King Philip's palace in Madrid. And he still holds his gun. He's armed. Velázquez is very tastefully acknowledging that the battle was won, but the war continues. They are still fighting. In terms of composition, you know by now that Velázquez is going to want to show off. What we see are the main figures in this oval of space. To highlight that, we have this horse here. Now, some students have asked in the past, why show a horse butt? It's not great, right? Why put the horse butt right next to the general? You know what? I don't know why he chose to have the horse butt. However, I will say that in terms of the composition, Velázquez is mirroring the other side. Well, we have a horse over here. So we're getting the horse as it turns into the scene, and we have this horse as it turns into or forward and backwards from the scene. So compositionally, he's creating this invisible oval of space where our eye seems to nestle around. Why he chose the horse butt, I don't know. But this idea of seeing multiple views of a figure or multiple views of the same type of figure, Velázquez loves doing it. I'll show you back here with our Venus. Here in Venus, he's giving us the sex goddess, the goddess of love and sex, and giving us the back of her so we can just enjoy her rear end, and the mirror so that she can watch us as we enjoy her. She enjoys being watched, and we enjoy watching her. So this play on doubles, he does it in a lot of his compositions, and that's what he's doing here in the Surrender of Breda. He's also giving us the illusion similar to Zurbaran. You see it right there? Sorry, it's so pixelated, but it's supposed to look like a piece of folded paper that's been stuck to the paint on the canvas. And he's also going to give us, oh, there, look at my detail. Beautiful, beautiful. He's also going to give us a selfie. We think that that's Velázquez. Artists, they cannot help being in their paintings, can they?